panelist, Mr. Sarthak Murjani, graduated in 2020 from Goa Campus with a dual degree in mathematics and computer science. Upon graduation, he held the first rank in the mathematics department and third rank in the computer science department. He completed his undergraduate thesis from Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, Mumbai. He further did his PS-II at Nutanix, where he currently works as a full-time member of the technical staff.
Okay, so our fourth panelist is Mr. Shreyas Nisal. He's a final year student at Goa Campus, pursuing a dual degree in physics and computer science. He has interned at BitHive, Twilio Incorporated, and Oakland Systems. At present, he is a research intern at MIT Media Lab. He completed his undergraduate thesis at Monash University, Australia.
Our fifth panelist is Mr. Sanket Gupte, who is a computer science PhD student at Stanford University. He graduated from Goa Campus in 2017 with a degree in computer science. He works at the Medical AI and Computer Vision Lab, where his current research focuses on using computer vision and deep learning. His previous research spanned multiple domains, including computational genomics and proteomics and parallel computing. He did an on-campus thesis with Dr. Ravi Prasad Aduri.
Okay, so finishing off with our speaker list, we have Mr. Akash Chaudhary. He graduated in 2021 from Goa Campus with a degree in Electrical and Electronics Engineering and an MSc in Physics. He started his undergraduate thesis in a field of underwater robotics in the Acoustic Research Laboratory at National University of Singapore. He was also the founding member of Project Creators, which is one of the biggest technical projects on campus at the moment. So that concludes our speaker list. Moving on, our panelists will briefly talk about their PS-II or thesis experience and how it helped them play a key role in their academic career. And panelists, if you wish to add anything to the introductions, please feel free to do so in this segment of the talk. So I think we can start off with Sanket, if you wish to do so.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for the introduction. One thing which may be relevant, which wasn't mentioned, is that I also graduated early. So technically graduated end of 2016. So I did an on-campus thesis with Ravi Prasad Aduri in the field of computational biology, machine learning for predicting RNA protein interactions was the title of the thesis. And I'm interested in interdisciplinary research at the intersection of CS and bio. So I'd been working with him earlier, and so it just made sense to continue working with him for my on-campus thesis. And so that helped me get into my PhD program, where I started off doing comp bio stuff.
Okay, and Sarthak, what about you?
Hi everyone. Thanks for the introduction. So I actually started off as a computer science student, in which I did not have a maths degree then, but I did a few, like the standard theory courses which are there in our curriculum. Discrete maths being one of them, which kind of motivated me to take a reverse dual in maths. To kind of help me with my theoretical stuff. So in my college, mostly I did projects in theory, and ended up doing a thesis at TIFR Mumbai, which was also uh, mostly theoretical. It was in the field of optimization of scheduling algorithms. It was like the intersection of CS and maths. I mostly did the theoretical part there. In fact, my advisor at TIFR was a maths prof and not a CS prof. Uh, and then I wanted some industry experience, which is why I chose PS-II instead of thesis for my second sem. I had absolutely no idea what to do in life after my 5-1, so I kind of chose to explore the industry side of things also. Then at Nutanix, since I'm here since January 2020, where I did mostly work on distributed systems throughout from the start. I changed my team from between intern and full time because of some logistic reasons, but the work kind of remained the same in the area of distributed storage systems. And this actually helped me because today I'm more interested in distributed systems than theory. Not that I regret doing theory at all, but um, basically PS2 helped me explore a completely orthogonal field, which I actually liked. So that's more or less about me. Thank you.
Akash, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, as they told you all, my thesis was in underwater robotics under Dr. Manda Chatre. And to be honest, I think at that point I was not sure what field of robotics I was going to go into. I was working in ground robotics on campus as in Project Retos. So this experience was able to guide me towards what I want, and because of which, although it wouldn't seem like it, but because of which I was motivated to go into SOM robotics, which is how like I'm currently working as a research fellow in Czech Technical University. I'm going to start my PhD in September. So I think because of the thesis, I got to experience new fields of robotics, talk to new people, and basically got introduced to a new field and entered into a third kind of robotics as my career. So yeah, that was my experience.
Okay, Aditya, what about you?
Yeah, hi everyone, and thanks for the introduction and thanks for organizing this. So I graduated with the degree in computer science and economics, and before my 5th year, which is when we are supposed to do thesis or PS2, I worked with Professor Ashwin on problems related to NLP. But I had no idea about like problems related to real world machine learning or applied machine learning. All I wanted to know, all I knew was that I roughly wanted to work in the space of machine learning. So that is essentially why I chose a thesis, because I knew I might have a higher probability of getting to choose the work that I wanted to do. So I joined Microsoft Research India as an intern for 6 months, and then I ended up continuing it for another semester. And while my degrees are computer science and economics, and I was working on problems related to only applied machine learning and recommendation systems. But since you're supposed to do a thesis in each degree, we kind of put an economics spin on it and submitted the thesis. It doesn't really matter. No one cares about it. And then I liked the work, and my supervisors wanted to continue working with me. So I joined as a research fellow, and that is when I sort of shifted tracks to theoretical machine learning. And then I started working on problems related to non-convex optimization and improving convergence rates and things. So, and a little bit of applied machine learning on the application of the algorithms that we are developing. And then last year I moved to Google Research, and here I'm also working on very similar problems, like mostly with a good mix of theory and empirical, although now I work a bit more on understanding deep learning phenomena and trying to build the theory around it. And that is roughly my background. I'll be heading to UC for a master's in computer science and machine learning starting August. So yeah, that's pretty much about me and my background. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Aditya. Shreyas, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. I did my. Sorry, give me one second.
I think you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. Hi everyone. So, I'm a physics plus CSGLI, and I'm doing both my thesis. The first one I completed at Monash University in Australia, and the second one I'm currently doing at MIT Media Lab. My work mostly involves human-computer interaction, which, to be very honest, is like a very interdisciplinary thing. You could end up doing a lot of stuff. Like, although my focus has been on computer science, but it could involve working with hardware as well. So that's about HCI. The reason I decided to do a thesis was, number one, because I had a summer internship. So for my first semester, I had to do one. The other big reason was because I hadn't really done any SOPs or anything during my college time, and because I'd worked at a company in my during my summer internship, I wanted to get a feel of what research is like. So I decided that this 1 year was my chance to really understand how end to end the entire research thing works, which is why in my first thesis, although I was working with a PhD, I was also kind of handling my own project, which I could decide what to do with it. And I was taking it from the start to its conclusion, which is the writing work, etc. So yeah, that's about me.
Okay, so just to be clear, from here on, you'll be moving towards more of research and less of.
I'm still trying to decide that. So I will right now I'm going to be taking up my job most likely, and I will be applying for a master's. I'm still trying to make a decision on whether research is something that interests me and whether I would maybe like to do a PhD in the future. That is something that I'm still looking to decide.
Okay.
But I have a job offer at Twilio, which is from my summer internship, which is what I plan to join right now.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
So, Vignesh, could you introduce yourself now?
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, and yeah, thank you for inviting me. So like you guys mentioned, so I did my bachelor's from Pilani, and in Pilani, like I basically did the courses on parallel computing and also a few courses on machine learning. So from there, I had like developed an interest in like large scale software systems and machine learning. So I wanted to like work in a combination of both the areas. So I had like that's why I like decided to like, and I also wanted to have like some industry experience as well. So like I had a chat with my seniors, and I got to know that at Amex, like so the team works on the American Express like XGBoost algorithm, which is like a scalable machine learning algorithm, and I thought I'll get good experience working with the team. So basically, I worked at Amex for 2 years as an AI researcher, and like decided that okay, I want to learn more in the field of machine learning systems. So I decided that I'll first go for my masters, and basically here at UCSD as well, I'm working as a graduate student researcher in advanced data analytics lab under Professor Arun Kumar. So he's also mainly specializing in the field of machine learning systems, and currently I'm like working with scalable deep learning model selection systems. So yeah, that's my background.
Okay. So thank you, speakers, for elaborating. And now we will move on to the most awaited part of our talk, which will be the panel discussion. So let me start off by addressing this question to the entire panel. At what point did each of you decide that you wanted to pursue a PS or a thesis? And what were the pros and cons that you considered in the process?
Also, if few of you want to add to it, you can ask. You can also answer when did you start preparing for them and stuff like that. Anybody can start.
Okay, I'll start off. So I knew very early on that I just want to do research. In fact, I started doing research right in my 2-1. I went to Ravi's office and started working with him on my project, which later turned into my thesis a couple of years later. So it was very clear cut for me. I want to do research, not interested in typical job SD position as expected of most CS students. I was like, I don't want to do that. Not my cup of tea. So the decision for me was very easy. Like thesis seemed to be like the logical next step. And I was fairly certain in my second year itself that I wanted to do a PhD. So thesis was like no-brainer option.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, for me as well, it was pretty much the same. Like I think I did some coding in my PS1, and that's when I realized that I can't do this. Like I don't like that code, and that code doesn't like me, so it's not going to work. So that's when I realized, okay, I need to figure something else to do with my life. So in my second year, since I'm a dual degree student, and third year, summers is essentially free for us. So I started looking for research internships, just mailing people in Indian universities to see if I could stick around in someone's lab for a couple of months. And that's when I went to IISc for 2 months, and I worked on something related to computer vision and object detection. And that was essentially when I realized I wanted to do a thesis instead of going for a typical job. And I started seeing if there are opportunities in working in research roles for thesis and then maybe full time as well. So the thing is, like, if you have to do a thesis, you have to start at least like 5 to 6 months before that, because you need to start mailing people if you're looking to do an off-campus thesis. So that is something that you have to keep in mind. And in general, yeah, I applied really broadly, because like what I worked on, my thesis was something that I had never worked on before. So I don't really think it takes a lot of background knowledge per se. It's mostly about consistency and determination and how you can approach people and let them know that you're interested in working with them. And then like most people are fairly open to taking a bet on undergraduate students as long as you put in good efforts. So yeah, that was essentially the point when I decided, okay, I think I want to do research, and started reaching out to people where I could do my thesis.
Sarthak, do you have anything to add on to that?
Yeah, so actually it was pretty opposite of what Sanket said. I wasn't sure what to do at all, because I think that there was a reason behind it also, and I'll elaborate it. So once I went into theory, um, it was hard for me to kind of uh, get a decent output in a new problem. I loved reading existing problems. I loved reading existing papers in theoretical CS, but whenever I wanted to work on a new problem, uh, it 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 was pretty challenging, because there were not many people on campus working in theory, not many professors on campus working in theory. But then said I think I should definitely try it. So I went on to TFR to try that if I actually like theory. And in TIFR, I kind of realized that uh, research versus industry is a separate problem to solve, and which area do you want to work in is a separately is an entirely different problem to solve. So my thesis made me realize that I don't want to do theory simply because it's very hard for me to do it, and not because I don't like it. And I think that realization is very important. What you think, if you're able to do it or you're not able to do it. Um, but I still wanted to try something else in research. I'm not a machine learning fan, by the way, so there might be many people not liking me here. But so I did not like I did the standard Andrew NG machine learning course, which I did not like. So I was sure I was not doing machine learning, even in industry, nor as a research thing. So Nutanix was a great option at that time, because enterprise storage companies generally don't like machine learning, don't do machine learning. So that was a pretty natural option for me to go there, where I did systems and enjoyed it. So, um, but I really want to do research. That part has still not gone. So just in a different field than I was in my undergraduate studies. I was lucky enough actually that at Nutanix I got pretty relevant systems work. It was not a standard SD role, which is offered to like most offers on campus. I did not know that earlier, but yeah, just as I said, I was lucky to be in a great team here, which actually promotes some sort of research whenever we get time. Like just to give an example, we have a monthly paper reading series in our team where one of the team members actually presents a really nice cutting edge paper on systems, which is very recent. So like such sort of things I have not seen in many teams at Nutanix or out of Nutanix. So that motivated me to maybe try out some stuff. I also got a chance to present 2 or 3 papers. So with all those things in mind, like I want to go and pursue some sort of distributed systems research.
By the way,
So,
Sarthak will be heading to either Wisconsin or Michigan, like which are basically known for some of the top tier systems work. So he'll be continuing his research on some of the things that he's currently working on or new ideas in that space.
yeah, thank you.
That's really nice. So the rest of the speakers, like, could you answer this question? But also, more importantly, could you tell us how exactly did you shortlist the very long university list that you all want to apply to? Because I'm sure there'll be a lot of professors which you'll be looking into, and how will you even shortlist them?
So I can maybe help with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so basically, like even like I was not clear like what I want to do, like if I wanted to go towards research or towards industry. So like I tried taking multiple SOPs, like starting from my third year, like taking up some projects. But the thing was like again like without like some addressable outcomes, like because like in research you don't have like proper set deadlines like to which towards you might want to work, like except the obviously the paper deadline that you have. So uh, so that like there I could somehow could not manage my time that well while I was like doing research through SOPs. So then like I thought that like during my summer after my third year, I even thought that I'll apply for some research role in some labs in my field of interest as well. But a lot of positions for which I applied for, like either they had their positions filled or like I did not get a response back. So then I thought, okay, like let me try my hand with research internships in the industry. And since like PS, we know that like majorly it's offered like based on your GPA. So I thought, okay, let me try my hand there. And so I secured the research engineer internship at American Express. And so there I got to like work uh, more in the research side as well. And also like since it's in the industry, so you also have like proper deadlines that you would have to meet while working. So yeah, I kind of like that work. And from there only, so from there, since I got to explore the field of machine learning systems, so while I was shortlisting colleges, like first I went like obviously I also like first shortlisted like which are like the top maybe 50, 60 colleges in that area in which I want to work in. And like in those colleges, like I shortlisted the professors, like basically I had to go through the list of professors who are like working in the field of machine learning, and also like professors in the on the systems side. So basically like almost all of the universities have their like specializations mentioned, and you can like filter professors based on the specialization as well. So I shortlisted the professors, and I saw that what kind of students are the professors taking in, like are the professors taking in master student, because I was not sure that I would want to do a PhD particularly, but I still wanted to work with a professor who can guide well. So I first shortlisted professor, went through their students, went through their profiles, and based on that, I was able to like shortlist like universities where I would want to apply for. So through that, I came to a list of like 9, 10 universities for which I would want to apply for, and finally for like from selecting through between my admits as well. Again, I had to like there I had to like mail professors as well to ask them if like they'd be willing to take in master students as like research assistants, or like at least offering some research opportunities. So based on that, I made my decision for which university to go with.
I'm sure that gave us some clarity. Um, okay, so
One huge factor which I feel like got left out, which was also a part of my decision. Of course, I'd already decided that I wanted to, explore research in this 1 year, but somehow I really feel like my CGPA was also a factor. I felt like because PS-II was going to be based on my CGPA, and I don't have a very good grade point average. That was also another reason I decided that thesis looked like a better option, because that was based more of off of your profile and how well you could reach out to professors, sell yourself to them. So that's one thing that I wanted to add. Regarding actually looking for professors in universities. Um, so I initially just began with trying to email professors at the top universities, and a lot of times I've just opened their computer science faculty directory and just try and look through there, which I realized very soon was not a great option really. You need to for example, in my case, if it's human computer interaction that I'm interested in, I should just be searching for HCI labs XYZ university if I have a university in mind. And as far as you know ra- uh, like ranking those universities and all are concerned, you'll find a lot of different ranking portals. One that I think would be really useful, and I didn't have this at my time, with is this thing called CS rankings. What this portal does in particular is it ranks universities based on only research and publications that come out from the university, and you can adjust the filters according to whatever specialization you want. But this is for a thesis. I think this is a great option to look at university rankings, as opposed to, if you're looking for grad school, you might want to use a different portal, things like that. But yeah, this should be pretty useful.
Great. So, Akash, we would love to hear your take on this next question that we have. Could you tell us what exactly does doing a thesis entail? Essentially, could you shed more light on what is the work schedule or the timeline of an entire thesis?
Yeah, so my thesis was an year-long thesis, and it was during the COVID time, so it got weird. And Singapore had really strict guidelines regarding travel of students or like literally any personnel from any other country. So I had to work from home. The work for me, I think in this regard, I got lucky that my professor was extremely available for me. So whenever I needed, so mostly I was given like I was asked what do I want to do in the next 2 weeks, let's say, and I would give my, let's say, checkpoints at by in the next 2 weeks. This is how much I want to complete, because we had a final goal of the project, but nothing in between. Like so, it was all left on me, which I think is one of the greatest advantages of doing research. That although like, there's a lot of work, but you get to choose when you want to work. Usually I would tell them, okay, I want to work this much in the next 2 weeks. At the end of 2 weeks, they will have a meeting, and I will tell them how much I have done. And like, so we had some bigger chunks of goals, some smaller chunks, and this is how we did it finally. And the good thing, one more good thing is, so let's say if they wanted me to do something which was not in my skill set, and they would usually ask me, do you know this? And if I say yes, they would be like, take 1 more week to study. And if I say no, they would like, okay, take 2 weeks to study. And so they always allowed me to grow, and and they always helped me. Like by they, I mean my supervisor and my mentor. Supervisor was the professor, and mentor was a postdoc. So yeah, this was more or less my project. My project was working on an underwater simulator for robots, on which all the systems that we were building could be tested in Unity.
Okay, so Sarthak, like we've talked a little about thesis now, but since you did a PS, like could you elaborate on how hectic it gets, and also if students want to prepare for masters after that during their PS, and if they're already late, and if any problems like this occur, so how do they deal with it, or they just directly go for a thesis otherwise? And also, like some students just fail to secure an SIP, and they wish for a PPO. So does the PS actually help them get the PPO?
Sure. Okay. So that was a lot of questions, by the way. So if I miss something, please let me know. Um, so first I'll talk a bit about the PS experience, about what you asked us, how hectic it gets. So that's like a very subjective question. I'd say it not only depends on the company, but more on the team you're working in, and how nice your manager is, and how critical the deadlines are for that particular team. So uh, my internship team was different from where I'm now as a full time. So at the start, it's not very hectic. At least it wasn't for me. First 1 to 2 months, I wasn't allotted a lot of work. But generally, what happens is, and I really want to stress this, that when we enter industry for the first time, right, everyone is very motivated. I want to do this. I want to do this. एकदम ही मचा देना है type मतलब, right? I mean, you want to get a project which has a impact on like the revenue of the company, right? I mean that those are the levels of wishes we have when we enter industry. But it's very important to realize that industry code bases are more like huge. I mean, they're beyond your imagination. So it's not possible for a manager, let's say, to give you like crazy impactful work from the start itself. So one thing that I would definitely suggest is, and this I'm suggesting from the mistake I did actually, uh, it's better to get adjusted for first 2 3 months before you go to your manager and say that I want to do this project because this is more impactful, or something else like I want more work basically. um, so what happened with me was, since I told you, right, I wasn't getting a lot of work in my first 1 to 2 months. So I got a bit restless and I was like, no, I don't want to do this. I want a different project. I approached my manager once in 2 3 weeks that no, I don't, I want something else. I want something else, etc. etc. Uh, 2 months down the line, he said, okay, you really want it, just take it. It was March 2020, by the way. COVID was just starting, and I got shifted to a project which had immense impact. And I couldn't understand anything because the demands were huge, and I did not spend enough time learning the first half of the code base or whatever was required. So it became like very challenging for me because COVID just started, so we were not adjusted to work from home then. It was very difficult for everyone to adopt to work from home, be it industry, be it you guys who are like studying right now, or even people doing their PhD. I'm sure Sanket Bhaiya would add to that as well. Um, so the workload entirely depends on your team, I'd say. Balance things out properly. If it's becoming too hectic, you can politely tell your manager that you want to go a little slow. That's perfectly fine. Um, okay. Well, what were the other questions? Sorry.
Yeah.
Um,
So like, if you fail to secure a SIP and
yes. Okay. Sure.
you,
Yeah, so I would say PS is as good as a SIP in terms of securing a PPO. The only downside is that you get to know about the PPO pretty late, which is very close to your graduation, especially if you're doing it in second sem. So I would say don't rely on it. I mean, if you want to go into industry, it's obviously better to have something in hand than relying on PS. But in general, if the company has positions and you do well, they will hire you. I mean, no one in this world wants to lose a good candidate, be it a university, be it a industry. No one wants to lose a good candidate, so they will do anything and everything for you um, if if you're a great candidate. And that's the way it should be, I think. I mean, you should never lose someone great. I mean, that person can do wonders for you. So yeah, PPO is as easy as SIP. Yeah. Uh, Anything else? You asked one more question.
no, I think this was it. Like,
Okay.
Also, one more thing to add. I'm not sure what the situation is right now, but at least in the time that Sarthak and I were in college, if you secured a summer internship, the placement division had a mandate that you couldn't go for a PS-II because there was an intersection of a couple of weeks between a summer internships and the PS-II. So in our time, essentially everyone who got a summer internship was forced to do a thesis in the first semester. So that's maybe something to find out about before you choose to maybe sit for summer internships and then evaluate the pros and cons between that and doing a PS-II in that sem versus doing a summer internship plus a thesis. If you are a dual degree student, if you're a single degree student, you can push it to the next semester.
So Aditya, the next question we have for the panel, we would love to hear your take on it. So a common problem many students face today is cold emailing. And is this considered unprofessional? And to add to this, could you elaborate, like, how do you make your emails stand out such that there is a higher chance for you to get the thesis?
Okay, yeah, I don't think it's unprofessional at all. I think like almost 80-90% of the people who do off-campus thesis get them through cold emails. And I think like the maybe 10-15% people who do thesis but not through cold mailing would be because by knowing people through references, like their prof knows someone in other universities and they are ready to take them on for a thesis, and that's how it works. So I think cold email is like unless something has changed drastically in the 2 years that I did thesis, I think that's pretty much the only way to get research internships, because most of the universities or these corporate research labs like Microsoft Research, Google Research, now there are Adobe Research, IBM Research, Twitter is setting up a research lab in Bangalore by the end of the next year. So a lot of these are going to be around. So I think you have to reach out to the researchers and scientists to let them know that you're interested in the work. About how to write a good email, that part is actually fairly subjective. So in my time, I used this rule where and that's something that I learned from attending a lot of sessions by seniors in our campus on how to write emails when you're reaching out to people for thesis, was to basically make sure that you don't make it too long. So keep it to a maximum of even 2 paragraphs, and I would say even that is a stretch, because a lot of these scientists and researchers, they don't have time. So when you send them an email, they are not going to read 3 paragraphs worth of stories that you have written. So essentially it's just it's good to keep the first paragraph catchy and something that basically piques their interest, so you can talk about their work and the papers that they published and what you find interesting about them. And then maybe you can add a plug about the work that you have done and mention that I have been working on maybe related problems, or if not related problems, some of these problems, and I'm really interested in working on these problems. And then I feel that it's also important to send reminders, maybe up to 2 emails, because again, a lot of these times, like once I was working with my supervisor, and then I saw the volume of emails that he gets, and it's huge. Like just from bits, I think in Microsoft Research, I think at any point there are 50% RFs only from the 3 campuses of BITS, Goa, Pilani, and Hyderabad combined. So the volume of emails that they get is huge. So there's a high chance that they read your email and they thought they'll get back to you sometime later, but they just forgot about it because they have like 100 other things to do. So from the etiquette that I thought was okay, was to maybe send up to 2 reminders, and maybe like 1 week down the line once you've sent your initial email, and then maybe another 2 weeks later. But after that, if you don't get a response, I think you should just move on and try to mail the people. So that I don't think this is like a one size fits all solution. So these things are fairly subjective. So you have to see what works for you. But I do feel that with respect to the limit on how much you should write, I really think it shouldn't be more than 1.5 to 2 paragraphs, and just a brief intro about your work and about their work and why you're interested in working with them. If you read their papers and mention what you liked about that, I think that's something that definitely people find very interesting, because they know you are willing to go that extra length and read their papers and get to know about their research a bit more.
Not sure if if the length of paragraphs for us is different, but I used to split my mails into 4 paragraphs, mostly of just 2-3 lines each. The way I used to do this was first introduce myself, then a couple of lines about their work and projects that interested me. The third would be my work, which aligns with their work, my previous projects. And fourth would be explaining to them that there's a thesis requirement at your undergraduate institution, and like asking if you can do it with them. That's usually how I structured my emails. But yeah, most of the other things I do agree with. You guys can also set up a tracking system like Streak, which I did. I like, as far as I know, they can't see that you're tracking the email, but you get an idea about whether the professor has read your email and how many times they've opened it, things like those. So I think that is useful as well in terms of planning your follow-up emails.
Yeah, maybe I can add a little bit to that. But Shreyas, one thing is that some university IT systems automatically filter out these kinds of trackers and things. So your mail may just bounce or may get blocked. So maybe avoid using it sometimes. I personally haven't cold mailed anyone for thesis, but being on the other side of the table, maybe I can share a few insights from my perspective, which is that often instead of mailing the professor directly, it may be worthwhile reaching out to their senior PhD students or postdocs. You are much more likely to get a reply quickly because, as Aditya said, the professors' inboxes are flooded. Like there are profs here who get 40 emails an hour. Even my email is not going to stand out in that. Okay, so reach out to senior postdocs, PhD students. They'll often know, which are the specific projects in the lab where there are vacancies. So even within a lab, some projects may be filled up, some may have vacancies. Some of them we may be looking for people to recruit. Like if you reach out to me instead of my advisor, Serena Young, I will tell you that on my project currently we're not taking anyone. So you'll get a reply immediately from me. But Serena is probably very busy, and so she may not even reply to you, and you'll be left hanging. So, if you're going to be rejected, it's good to be rejected early on. So it makes sense to sort of maybe reach out to PhD students as well.
I agree, but the biggest trade-off that I felt between emailing PhDs and professors is that professors could just ghost you, like not reply at all because they're pretty busy. With PhDs, I have also had the experience of emailing PhDs, having them set up a call with me, and later they still need to talk to the professor, the PI at the lab, and the PI could just say no even after a call. So even if the PhD feels like you would be a good fit, the professor could just say that we are only taking students from our own university. That's also a possibility. So that's kind of the trade-off between, emailing a professor and a PhD.
I agree, Shreyas. The only distinction here is that, PhD student cannot make a unilateral decision on hiring a undergrad for a thesis or whatever. But what we can do is that if there are no positions, we'll tell you directly so that you won't waste your time.
Okay, so Sanket, let's just say a student is caught up in a weird situation where he's interested in, he's kind of decided that he wants to do a thesis, but he has a CG of around 7.5 to 8, which is not that great when compared to other universities who grade slightly more leniently than this. So in this case, what should he do? And let's just say he doesn't have that many flamboyant projects to show. So on his CV, and in this case, how would you approach the situation?
To apply for a thesis, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so different people have different opinions on CG. I personally think it's not that much of an issue. What matters more is how well you can contribute to the lab, because when we are looking for students to join our lab, our main bottom line is this person joining our lab going to be a net benefit to us, or is it going to be a drain on us? Because we don't want to be stuck mentoring someone who is going to, not need to learn things from scratch, and all the whole 6 months gets wasted in just getting them up to speed. That's not what we want. So CG is like incidental. If a person comes in saying, oh, we know solid deep learning, we have done like computer vision research, that kind of stuff, then we're more excited about that. So CG is really not that much of a major factor. So I would say if you feel you have the skills and the background to contribute meaningfully to some professor's research, don't worry about the CG, just go for it.
Yeah, I will have to agree to that. When I was applying for my thesis, my CGPA was 5.5. It's an extreme example. And when I applied for my PhD, my CGPA was 5.7. And so when I got accepted, I asked my professor, "You do know my CGPA, right?" And my professor was like, "Yes." I was like, "What do you think about it?" And his translation was, "I don't give a fuck." Okay, so So yeah, please maintain a good CGPA. Like unless low CGPA do decrease your chances, but don't be disheartened if you're in a final year with the less CGPA and you're like, okay, no, I can't pursue this. You can if you have the skill set and the motivation.
So Akash, we are kind of circling back here. Could you elaborate on how you finally decided the area in which you wanted to pursue your thesis, and what are the factors that affected your decision-making process?
Okay, so for me it was a bit weird because in the start of my first year, I was interested in theoretical physics. So I knew that I wanted to do a thesis and research, maybe PhD, but the field in the start was physics. The interest dwindled by the end of second year, and once I went to a professor, I won't name him, and I just asked him about PhD in physics, and his statement was, once you complete a PhD in physics, you basically become unemployed. And that was the last nail in the coffin. I was like, okay, I'm gonna switch from that. Which is when I started foraying into the field of robotics. And on the side, I used to read some papers. So when the time came to apply for PhD, sorry, not for PhD, for thesis, by that time I had narrowed that I want to either apply in biorobotics or in underwater robotics. And which was basically by reading papers, and by reading papers I don't mean the whole paper. I mean it was mostly abstract introduction, experimental results, and conclusion, because I don't think I would have been able to understand the whole paper in my second or third year. It's a lot of things, a lot of concepts that I know. So by the end of my, I think 3-1, I was sure that these are the two things that I want to applying. I started to find labs. I had a very strong bias against going to US, so I applied in Europe, Singapore, and Australia. That's how I ended up in Singapore.
Okay, that's really good to know, and kind of a motivation to people who kind of have a low CG and who wish to do good things. So next question is for Vignesh. So is it better to prepare for an SIP or go for a research internship if our CG is decent and our short-term goal is placements, but long-term goal is MS, because accordingly one won't be able to sit for SEM 1 PS-II where cutoffs are relatively lower?
So that depends. If you want to do, if you want to go for MS, you will also get an opportunity either to do a thesis as well, or during the PS-II as well. But yeah, for me it was similar to that I also just to have a safety net. I also sat down for placements and went for my summer internship, and then after that I thought okay, I would want to go for masters as well. So that's why I thought that for my PS-II I thought I'll try out a research oriented PS. So hence I decided to pursue that further.
Okay, so could you just tell from your knowledge how easy it is to shift to a corporate job after doing a thesis? Let's just say someone wants to try out research and he's going in for a thesis, and after that he wants to shift. So what's that shift like, and is it just better to start off with a PS itself?
So to shift, if you want to shift from a thesis to a corporate job, so obviously you would have to prepare for you do prepare for a summer internship, so you'll have to prepare for similarly for a corporate job as well. And let me know how I can elaborate on that.
No, can you just exactly tell us how does a thesis first and then a corporate job work next works? It's not some two things that people usually take together. So
I'm not sure about the thesis, but for for corporate job I can help with that. I'm not sure how exactly a thesis would go about.
Yeah, that's fine.
If someone can elaborate on that.
I think in most cases, the company is not going to care about your thesis unless it's super relevant to the work that they're doing. So the process for getting a corporate job is exactly the same, which is prepare for the interviews and all those coding tests and whatever, and do well in the interview, get a job. Thesis is kind of like sidelined.
Yeah, that is essentially what I was going to add as well. Like, irrespective of like, if you are working, there is a very small subset of problems where you are working on something in research, and then that is also something that is applied or relevant to the business of companies. So, since I work in ML, what I've seen is if you are working on something like that, and then if you were to try for full-time roles like applied scientist at Microsoft or MLSV at a lot of these companies, they do care about what work you've done, because most of the time they don't want to train people from scratch. But if you are moving into, let's say, SD kind of roles, you are essentially going to have to grind lead code day and night, irrespective of what background you come with that research. That's the harsh truth, and I think everyone just has to make their peace with it.
Also, one more thing that I'd like to add with, about shifting and whether to like take a job as a backup and then do research, right? So I would say unless you are 110% sure of doing a PhD or master's, I would say having a job as a backup is a very, very good idea. To be honest, I have not seen anyone as motivated as Sanket for research. And I'm not kidding here. Like, absolutely, just one person I would have interacted with almost 7 to 8 batches on campus, and there is no person like him I have seen who was so motivated that he doesn't really care about what the world is doing. Even on campus, I would have seen him just walking through, eating what, pista ice cream, or what was that? Yeah, and just thinking about whatever he used to. So having a job as a backup is a very, very good idea. I actually know people who did not did not sit for placements, wanted to go for masters, and got their decisions pretty late. So they kind of regretted not having a job. I mean, not that they did not get masters, they did get it, but they got their decisions pretty late in the cycle. So to give you an example, if you apply in, let's say, November, December, you get your results in Feb, March, April for masters. Now that this particular person whom I'm talking about applied to like 7, 8 places, got n-1 rejects in a row, and now you can imagine the state of this person, right? It's April of the graduating year. You're graduating in 3 months. You're supposedly one of the best persons, like one of the best profiles on campus. You don't have a job. You don't have a master's. So it's always good to have some sort of backup. I would say you can drop it later, which is what most people do. But better to be safe than sorry is my opinion on it. Unless you are as motivated as Sanket. So
No, let me add to that, Sarthak, which is that even if you're as motivated as me, please keep a backup.
yeah, see,
Because my situation is very weird. I do whatever I feel like doing. I don't care about anything. So I did not even register for placements in my 4-1. I was like, I don't want to do placement. I want to apply for a PhD. The time came to apply for a PhD at the end of my 4-1. I said, I'm not ready. And then I was also graduating early. So I graduated at the end of my 4-1 with nothing in hand, no job. Of what to do after that, okay, which is not a great position to be in. But I will say this, that if you acquire marketable skills, you don't need to worry. So just to add to what happened after that, is had been working closely with Ashwin on some ML stuff, and Ashwin recommended me to a hedge fund in UK, which he knew the guy running it. And so after working with them briefly, they offered me a full-time position at their main office in the UK as a machine learning specialist to predict price movements and things like that. That didn't work out for some other reasons, but it was effectively an off-campus placement, which I got without even trying or actively searching. That's simply because I had the relevant skills and I had impressed Ashwin enough with those skills to get the job. So if you have marketable skills, don't worry about taking risks.
Thank you for that. So, Sarthak, since you've done both a thesis and a PS, which did you find more beneficial, and could you give like a direct comparison between the two?
Okay, this would be a very subjective answer because both the areas of so-called computer science in which I did thesis and PS were completely orthogonal. Because thesis I did in theoretical CS, which was purely theoretical, hardcore maths and some algo theory stuff, and my PS, at least the PS part of it, at least half of it, I would say, was a standard SDE role. It wasn't a so-called researchy type of role, at least my PS part of Nutanix. So I felt one very big transition going from thesis to uh, PS, which was the freedom, the amount of freedom that you get in in a research-based role in a thesis as compared to what you do in industry. Because in thesis, it's more on, at least with my advisor, it was more on which problem I want to take on rather than him giving me, do this problem. Whereas in industry, it was slightly different. Like I was assigned these works which I had to do. So that freedom was something which I missed a lot actually in my first few months of PS. But slowly, I got accustomed to it. But then again, when my team changed in full time, as I said, and I'll repeat again, I was very lucky where my manager actually gave me options about which project do you like, what do you want to get into, and all. But it's the freedom part which I think is, many people actually say this, that when you come to industry be it a research intern or be it like maybe even SOP in undergrad at bits, right? Whenever we approach a professor, at least when I used to approach a professor, the first question was not that, will you be interested to work in this problem? It was always, what problems are you interested to work in? So that sort of freedom was missing in PS2. The good thing about PS is you get a lot of money. So there's that trade-off is always there, I think, between industry and academia. After a certain point, I think the gaps are bridged, but I don't know about that. But so yeah, that's about it.
Right. Thank you for that response. So
Yeah.
the next question
Sorry,
that
sorry. One more thing which I like to add is, I may not quote it exactly as I heard it, but I think many of you know Simran Khanuja here, and we met very recently. And there's one thing which she said, that the reward of losing money in academia, sorry, like basically the trade-off of losing money if you do research is the nice intellect you get, and the knowledge you earn, and that's like the most important thing. I mean, she said it in a much more fancier way. But yeah, that's one thing which definitely matters, I think. Self-satisfaction about the work you're doing kind of matters more than the money. And even if you get into industry, right, like a very, very, very strong advice that I'll give is, don't run after money in industry. Run after the role you want to do. This may seem pretty cliched or pretty much, I mean, you guys might think, what is this guy saying? We don't even know what we will do in industry and whatnot, right? Maybe you can start off with something which pays you more, but if there is something which is paying you even 20 to 30% less, but it's something you really like, I would strongly recommend you go ahead and do that.
So now we have a question from the audience. So this is an open question to the panel. Do companies expect research experience for ML job profiles? If so, how beneficial is it to do a thesis over PS2 for dualites?
Also, like many companies don't recruit for ML roles directly like SDs. So that's why I think one of
Yeah, I
the
can probably just add a bit there. So yeah, the what is like what you mentioned was essentially true. Like most of the companies, like I only know a bit about Google, Microsoft, Adobe, and the likes, and most of these companies they don't hire for MLSV roles. So there are usually variations of what these companies call these roles. So if you're still looking at the product side of things, for example, Microsoft IDC, and then you're looking at ML roles there, and then similar for, let's say, Google and Adobe, for all of these ML roles, they usually have options from masters and PhD people who are, let's say, coming back from different countries and they want to come back to India and work on these roles, or people who have a lot of experience already working on ML problems from different companies, which is why they really don't give these roles out to people who are graduating. But the only exception that I've seen in general is that if you have good publications, or if you have published in really good venues or in areas where the problem really matters, then I've seen people, they're able to get applied scientist or MLSV jobs directly in these roles, because the recruiters and your hiring managers and people in these companies know that you are not someone they'll have to train from scratch to explain the machine learning ecosystem. Maybe the tools specific to the company is something you'll have to get used to, but you know the rinse repeat procedure of how machine learning works and what you're supposed to do. So that is something that I've seen that thesis sort of gives an upper hand on, because if you're able to get some tangible output in terms of a paper, or even like really good recommendations of working with people who are well known in the research space, that can really make a big difference when you're trying to look for, let's say, ML roles in these companies. Then there is also the research engineer roles in these research labs, which are sort of even more competitive, because there the people you worked with and who knows them, those things matter even more. So yeah, it's sort of a difficult space to make it, but yeah, I do think thesis gives a lot of advantage there as compared to PS-II or working in SD roles, because yeah, then what people do is they usually work in SD roles for a couple of years and then make a lateral switch to machine learning when they find interesting problems in their companies, and that's how they get into that space.
Okay, so thanks for that answer. I think we're running out of time now, so we'll just wrap up with one or two questions. So, a question to the dualites out here, like, could you like elaborate on what is the one thing that you thought uh, that a PS or a thesis could benefit one over the other? Like, if when you thought that if doing a PS would give me this benefit, but I did a thesis, something like that. So, if any of you could answer that.
So I'd say if you're not sure of, like, if you're not very sure of what you want to do, then personally I feel it's better to try both, because you're getting an option right now. And it's also better to try out a thesis in first semester. The reason being because if you really like your thesis, you can extend it and actually get a tangible outcome of from your thesis. So I'd say it's better to try both of the things if you're not very sure what you want to do.
Also, like some of the single degree guys just have the opportunity for an early grad. So and the dual degree students have this opportunity for a year-long thesis. So like suppose let's just say a student is graduating, and is there a way like he can work informally under a professor for one semester and then do a formal continue that as a formal thesis? So is this a combination people can look into?
Yeah, I think this is definitely doable. So I did something similar, which I mentioned. So my 4-1, I did my thesis with Ravi. Then I graduated not knowing what to do. So when 4-2 started, I actually went back to campus and said, okay, let's try wrapping up some of this thesis work. And I was also working with Ashwin. Ashwin pointed me to TCS Research, where they had some open roles for folks interested in deep learning for genomics, which is what I wanted to do. So he referred me there, and then I spent most of my 4.2 at TCS Innovation Labs doing this research. So definitely the thing with the early grad is that it's really good in terms of flexibility. You spend one semester doing your thesis or whatever, and then the other the other semester it's totally up to you what you want to do with it. BITS has absolutely zero say in that. So you want to go chill on a beach, that's up to you. You want to continue your thesis, that's also possible. You want to do an internship, that's also possible. Anything works.
Okay, so thanks a lot for that answer. I think it's time now and we wrap up this talk. So just a few words before we end this. So I would like to thank all the panelists for taking their time out, and I know you all come from different time zones and it's kind of off time for some of you. So I really thank you for that. And also all the audience who joined in, really thank you for joining in this talk, and we hope it enlightened you and helped you and it kind of cleared out your decision making. So I hope it was beneficial, and now we'll be floating a feedback form in the chat box. All suggestions are most welcome and highly appreciated. So we wish you a good evening.
Thank you. Have fun.
Okay, sure.